creativity, and purpose all come together. Tonight is not just about books, it's about voices, it's about the courage it takes to put your truth on paper. It's about the calling. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tammy Bush, and I want to welcome you all to our education book panel discussion on tonight, panel discussion for educators tonight. It's a space where stories, healing, and creativity and purpose come together. Tonight is not just about books, it's about voices, it's about the courage it takes to put your truth on paper. It's about calling to share your story even when it hurts. Tonight is also our American Education Week that we're celebrating. So here shortly, I want Dr. May to come on. She is our president to share a little bit more about American Education Week. Dr. May.
Hello. American Education Week is celebrated November the 18th through the 22nd. That was in 2024, and this year was from the 17th to the 21st. And this year's national theme is focused on celebrating American public education. Each day highlights the central roles that educators, support professionals, families, and communities play in supporting student success. American Education Week is also a national project of Iota Phi Lambda Sorority Incorporated. In alignment with national focus, the Eta Gamma chapter proudly supports the National Education Association's themes as we celebrate and embrace America's public schools. In honor of American Education Week, Eta Gamma launched several meaningful service projects, Backpack of Blessings for educators impacted by the recent tornado in St. Louis, along with a book publishing initiative tonight for educators uplifting their voice and professional contributions. And tomorrow we will host our Prayer for Educators event live on Facebook at 6 a.m. as we cover our teachers, staff, and school communities in prayer. So this week stands as a reminder that public education is the cornerstone of our democracy, and that every individual who serves students helps shape the future. Today, we honor the dedication, leadership, and service of all who educate, empower, and inspire our youth. We hope that you enjoy this event tonight. I know that there are several educators who aspire to be authors, and we hope that the information you receive tonight give you more insight on how to effectively go through that process. So thank you to our panelists for joining us tonight. And I look forward to the discussion and more information that will be insightful to our educators. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. May. Again, welcome to our celebration of American Education Week. Again, like she said, it's November the 17th to the 21st. Tonight, we're presenting this event with love from the Iota Eta Gamma chapter. So American Education Week, again, is a time when we pause to honor the dedication, passion, and brilliance of educators, the individuals who shape minds, guide futures, and plant seeds of possibility in every child they encounter. So tonight, we extend that celebration into a new era, book publishing for educators. So because educators are not just teachers, guys, they are storytellers, historians, curriculum creators, culture builders, and legacy writers. Many of you have experiences, knowledge, lessons, and powerful narratives that deserve to be shared far beyond the classroom. So whether it's a children's book, a memoir of curriculum guide, or a curriculum guide, or a resource for families, your voice deserves space. As someone who has walked the road of self-publishing myself through grief, healing, and purpose, I know firsthand storytelling can change lives. Writing can bring healing. Publishing can open doors you never knew were meant for you. So tonight we have two individuals that are going to be sharing information with us on how to publish books, their experience as well. So tonight we have Kiana Shantine. She's an author One in her book that she wrote is called Healing Out Loud, and she is going to come on. She'll share a little bit about herself. We're going to have both of them to do that. And then we also have Aja Lastar Owens. She is an author and a publisher, and one of her books that she's going to talk about tonight is called Rock You Got It, I think. And she has 18 books. So welcome to the stage, our first guest, Kiana Shantine. Can you come on and introduce yourself? Okay, so we have Aja Owens. Go ahead, Miss Owens. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, and in a little whatever you want to share about the books that you published as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And I didn't want to forget to mention that this month is also National Family Literacy Month. And so it's so many opportunities to engage families in literacy. But as an author myself, I have published 18 books. 9 of them are poetry books because I am a poet and an MC. But 9 of them are also children's books. And one of my very first books is called Rock What You Got.
Yeah, Rock.
And it's actually based off of a poem in my very first book called Refuge. And so Rock What You Got is just a poem that's all about celebrating, like unique personalities, characteristics. We all show up different, but we all need to like rock what we got. And so, and I also have that book in English, Spanish, and in French. But, writing is something that, for me, when I go back, but like 20 plus years ago, being in elementary school and just, kind of navigating through life and, you having some challenges here and there, writing has always been my refuge. It's always been my way of kind of staying out of trouble. I used to love to write poems, stories, short plays, raps, and things like that. So as an adult, when I got a little older, I was able to take a lot of those things that I, just kind of collected over the years and turn them into my poetry books. And so one of the things that kind of really inspired me in the beginning, in 2011, my sister Adrienne and I, so she's a writer as well, she's a publisher and author as well. We helped to publish 15 youth. I think the youngest was 9 and the oldest was 15 through a public publishing camp that we did over the summer. And we did that before we even published our own books. And so after we published them, we were like, you know what, it's time for us to actually do our own book. And then that's when we started to publish our books. And since then we've been, on this journey. I think we've helped about 30 other authors publish their works over the years. And so that's been my journey. And again, I'm just a community advocate. I have an education background as well. I'm from Jennings, and so, I served as a councilwoman in Jennings, got involved in politics, but overall, I just love serving the community and uplifting literacy and community.
That is so awesome. So before we get into the questions, I'm not sure if we lost Kiana, Miss Shantine. Are you available to jump on?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay, there she go.
Yeah.
Okay, go on and share with the audience a little bit about yourself.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Kiana Shantine. I'm the author of Healing Out Loud. It is a self-help memoir because it's my story of how I survived suicide and the path to healing, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. So it's a workbook, but also it's just basically the foundation for what it looks like to start to unpeel layers and grief and trauma and things that we've all dealt with. Besides that, I also am a speaker and a coach. So I work one-on-one with individuals, helping them learn how to unpack their trauma, their grief, pain, things that we don't want to admit out loud, but I create a space for us to start to heal. On top of that, I also do work as well with adolescents, youth, teaching them about emotional intelligence and really trying to uplift and actually learn how to be more supportive and being more connected with one another, especially in the times that we're in now.
Okay, thank you so much. Again, welcome both of you all. And we're going to start asking a few of the questions. And if you want to bring Miss Aja back on, we'll start with the questions. And I am going to direct this first question to you, Miss Shantine. What inspired you to write your book?
The inspiration for me was to save lives. As a suicide survivor, I know God used me to be able to speak to those that are still suffering in silence. So for me, it was a purpose-driven reason for why I wrote Healing Out Loud.
Okay. And what about you, Miss Anja? What inspired you to write your book?
Similar to, Miss Shatine, when I think about my first book, again, it was called Refuge, A Poetic Sanctuary. And so for me, again, over the years, just having a lot of things that I've dealt with and being able to write those things down, it was for me first. Even when I think about that poem, Rock What You Got, it was something I wrote to inspire myself to keep pushing, and it became something that was a mantra for others. So it's like awesome when other people can relate, but it was for me first.
Okay, good. And that's the same. I am also an author myself. I have a couple of books also. And my first one was about my daughter. I lost my daughter, like Miss Shantine, attempt survivor. I lost my daughter to suicide about 11 years ago. And so one of my first books was something that she wrote when she was in high school. And it's called Shattered Wings. The story of my beautiful butterfly is what it's called. So I appreciate you all sharing that. And if you self-published your own book, what made you choose self-publishing instead of the traditional publishing? What made you do that? And if you want to start us off, Miss Ija, because I know you're a publisher as well.
Yeah, I definitely think, just having the autonomy to be able to, as an artist and as a creative person, you want to be able to have more autonomy over your work. And so to me, it would be great to be with a publisher, but at the same time, I know that working with a publisher would mean that there are a lot of stipulations and a lot of different things that you would have to do. One of the things I love doing is giving my books away. I want to have the autonomy to be able to give books away if I want to, and not have to ask anybody permission to share my works, And so that was one of my main reasons for wanting to self-publish, having that autonomy.
Okay, good. What about you, Ms. Shantine?
I self-published because I just couldn't wait to try to find a publisher to pay for it, because I knew that what I had to share just needed to be out there now. And when you get a calling from God, you just have to do it. You can't wait on anybody to give you permission. You just got to take the lead. So that's why I did self-publishing.
Okay, good. And so, and you can share a little bit about that as we get into some of the other questions, Ms. Ija, because you're an actual publisher also, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what is the difference. But my next question for you all is, what was the moment you realized your story needed to be shared with others? When did you realize that your story needed to be shared?
For me, as a poet, I'm a poet, I'm a poet, I'm an MC. So one of the things I've done over the years, I've always done open mics, right? And I realized that when I go and I share at these open mics, my poetry or raps or whatever that is, making that connection with people. And I remember after some of the shows, people would come up to me and they would say things like, I was thinking about committing suicide tonight, but you shared that one poem alone in a crowded room. And I could resonate with that. And it was in that moment that I realized, when you have a gift, it's easy to just do what you do. But then when you realize that you really have a purpose and what your words mean to others and how it can help heal people. Like when I think about words can heal and words can kill, right? We grow up thinking sticks and stones may break my bones, but words never hurt me. I'm like, no, words really do hurt, but words also heal. And so for me, it was in those interactions at poetry scenes, knowing that what we do with words actually heal people, actually empower people. It's the matter of somebody choosing to still push on because of words. So to me, I realized that, it's something bigger than myself. It's something that's helping me, but it's something that I know it needs to be shared with others.
Awesome. I love that you said that, because I'm doing the children's series about grief. And I don't even know what made me do that. It was just one day I was looking to, I said, I think at an early age, because my niece, her daughter, she lost her mother. So her daughter, I said, this is something that she needs to know at an early age. She doesn't have a grandmother, on her mom's side of the family. So I said at an early age, these kids need to learn what grief is. So that's what inspired me to want to do these children. It's a 5-part series on grief. you know, so I'm just can't wait to share it with the world. So what
Yeah.
about you, Miss Shantine? What are you to say? What was the moment you realized your story needed to be shared?
For me, it was 2 years ago, actually. I call it during my midlife awakening. I was in the desert in Sedona, Arizona, when I got the call. I literally heard God say, it's time for you to write your story to save lives, to impact somebody's life who was suffering in silence. This was in 2023. So all of 2024 is when I wrote Healing Out Loud. And then it came out in 2025. And 2025, now more than ever, people are feeling that depression, isolation, burnout, and stress. And now I see why God told me 2 years ago to write Healing Out Loud, because it's needed now. It's been needed, but now more than ever, it's time.
Absolutely, because there's so much going on in the world. I can appreciate that, and I can't wait to read your book. So now I want to talk a little bit about your publishing decision. So why did you choose? First of all, share what platform you're using and why did you choose that platform? Like for me, KDP is the platform that I'm using to upload my books, and I later on I want to do Ingram Sparks to share my books on there as well. But right now, my first one was KDP Publishing. And what about you, Miss Shantine?
I actually did the same thing. I went the KDP route, but I also have it on other platforms like BarnesandNoble.com, Ingram Spark. So there, it's at other places, but for me, it felt like Amazon KDP was the easiest and quickest, although it wasn't as easy as I thought, because I did everything from the cover to everything from the front to back of the book, and it wasn't as easy as I had hoped it would be. But once I finally got it, it was a piece of cake after that.
Right, that's the same over here. It was like trying to write everything and put everything on there. I was like, oh my God, I didn't know what I was doing, but I got it now.
Right.
I've done it several
Yeah.
times now. So what about you? What
Hmm.
platforms are you using and why?
The same. And you know, before KDP, it was actually called Create Space. I don't know if you
Oh,
guys get data back there. And honestly speaking, it was so much easier with Create Space. I feel like when they changed over to KDP, it's been so much more challenging and tedious. You know, I mean, because you could do everything right and they'll still, you know, send something back and say it's not formatted correctly. And so that could be really, really like stressful. You know, but however, I still do think it's still the better choice. But I definitely like the ease of Create Space, you know, 10 plus years ago, because KDP, I don't know, they have some issues.
okay, yeah, because it's
They have some
hard.
issues.
Like you said, you have to know exactly the sizing and
Right.
all of that, and that's what was hard for me too. But I think,
It's very technical.
and that's what made me get on the platform called Fiverr to have someone to help me with that. Now I have someone doing my illustrations and formatting everything for me, which makes it easier to upload everything. So if you could change, I mean, what surprised you most about the publishing process? What surprised you most, Miss Owens?
Two things. Two things that surprised me the most is how easy it is and how inexpensive it is. You know, because I think that a lot of times people hold off on doing it because they think it's so challenging or they think it's going to cost a lot of money. Even when you think about children's books, I know one of the main things people think are like, oh my God, illustrations are going to be so expensive. But to your point, you know, I use Fiverr too, but I've also used like personal people that I know to do illustrations. And like my sister and I, we do our own, you know, work a lot of times too. So, you know, I think that what surprised me the most is it's not expensive at all. And it is, you know, you get what you put into it, right? But it's also not, it's not expensive. You know, I think that you definitely, I think anybody can invest in themselves. And then again, like when you learn how to like just kind of really market your work, you can, you know, easily make the money back that you invest in it.
Absolutely. Was there anything that surprised you, Miss Shantine, about publishing?
I would have to say the same things. It's not as complicated or expensive as we think it is. Because for me, I just thought it was way more complicated. And then when I actually sat down and figured out how to do it, I felt kind of clueless, honestly, or not clueless, but I felt kind of dumb because I'm like, you could have did this a long time ago. So for me, it was just the simplicity of it once I sat down and actually did it, and then the funding of it, because being an author, you can buy your books at a certain price, at a wholesale price, and you can still, like you said, make your profit off the other end, on the back end. So it pays for itself, and it's really not that complicated or expensive. If you truly got the desire to do it, and I suggest people just do it.
Yes, and because you see that a lot. I see that every day when I go on Facebook, write your book. I see something go across my timeline. I guess
You
because they
know,
see me looking at different things, and they post that every single day, something about publishing your own book.
you just made me think about something. I want to
Yeah.
go back and change my answer from that earlier question that you asked, like what inspired you to really go ahead and do it. You are
Okay.
familiar with Les Brown, the motivational
Yes,
speaker?
yes.
He,
Absolutely.
I
he
love that.
he had a book. I think it's something about like following your dreams from like the
Mhm.
90s or something like that. And I ended up reading that book, and it was something that he had in there where he was talking about if you go to the cemetery, you'll see a lot of untold stories in the cemetery of people who had scripts and plays and all of these things that they never finished. And that's what actually inspired me to actually go ahead and do it this time.
Oh,
That
okay.
it was that moment.
That's
That was
good.
the
I love Les Brown. I
moment.
love him. And so, if you could change one part of your publishing journey, what would it be? Miss Shantine, what would it be? Kiana.
I would say for me, trying to rush the process, because when I thought the book was ready, it ended up being delayed, and then I ended up changing it, and it grew into the work that it is today. It wasn't always this version. So I think I was trying to rush it. I shouldn't say I think, I know I was, but God said, slow down, it's not done yet. So I
Mhm.
had to be patient with myself during the writing process.
Okay, so that's okay. Just expand a little bit on that. You wrote the book, you put it out, and then you went back and did a second version of it, or what was that? Okay,
No. So I actually had announced a pre-order for the book
okay,
in July of 2024, because I was going to put it out in September of 2024, but then it didn't come out.
okay.
And then it was after that time I ended up changing and writing it, because I started experiencing some other type of grief that transformed the book itself. So that's when I realized, like, no, you just have to be patient and allow the work to grow and evolve the way it's supposed to, and not try to force it. Because when I put it out in July, the pre-order, I'm like, oh, it has to come out now. And it just wasn't time yet.
Okay, that makes sense. So, what about you? What surprised you? I mean, what was the if you could change one part of publishing, what would it be?
I
Miss
don't know.
Lawrence?
I don't know that I would change anything because my story is similar to yours. So I wouldn't change anything because the one book that I had, it was called All She Ever Wanted. And I wrote that book and I still haven't published it. I always thought that was going to be my first book. And it's
Okay.
so interesting because to your point, I think when it's ready and when it's time, that's what will happen. So all of these other projects that I've done, they weren't planned, they weren't anticipated, but like even with Rock What You Got, like that's not something like my first children's book was supposed to be Age is Going to Be a Rap Star, which is funny because I just finished that, but I wrote it over 15 years ago. It
Oh
was
wow!
already done, but I just needed the right illustrator, right? So to me, I
Yes.
wouldn't change anything because I think that everything happens exactly the way that it's supposed to. And if we allow ourselves to feel, it's like you don't want to rush it, but at the
Mhm.
same time, you also don't want to not, continue to write, continue to feel, continue to experience things that's going to add to your project because it's a part of your journey.
Right. Yep, and I like that because there's some things on this book that I have wrote about my daughter. There's some things that I want to go back and change, and the reason I asked that because someone said you can always go back and change it and do a different
Sure
version of it,
can.
So and that's what I
Yep.
thought you meant by that because that's something that I plan to do with this one is to go back and make some add some things to it or what have you because when you're writing, you it may be some things that you hadn't thought of,
Mhm.
you know, and then later on, oh shoot, I forgot, I could have put this in there, you know. And so that's one of the reasons I want to make some updates to that. So
Or even when you think about like with a memoir, you know, a memoir is almost
Yeah.
like you're taking a fraction of your life, not the whole thing.
Of your
So
life.
even when you think
And that's
about
the other part.
going back in, it might not be that you have to add anything to that. Maybe that's starting another book, just
True.
continuing the
Because it can
story.
become too
okay,
long,
yeah,
especially with a memoir.
Mhm.
And I think I know
okay,
for me, that's where I started. It was like, I think all of this needs to be in it.
Right, right.
And I had to get clear on what is the message that you're trying to give with the book. Because all of that doesn't need to be in there.
okay,
Although you may think it's important, if it's not supporting what the purpose of the book is and who
Yeah.
your audience is, and it's not really relevant. And like you said, it could be another book
okay.
or something else that you can create with it.
Mhm,
That makes
mhm.
sense. Thank you all for that. That's why we on here tonight, to learn some stuff, right? Because it may be, like she said, some teachers out there, because when you're working in these schools, there are so many things that transpire when you're
Mhm.
working that you can, and I know these teachers have a lot of stuff that they can share, journals or what have you. So when it comes to marketing and branding, how did you build your author brand? What are some of the things that you all are doing that you can share?
Great question.
What are-
Well, I'll go.
Yeah.
I've been marketing myself. I've been marketing, even like I said, prior to the book coming out. I started marketing it last year, prior to it coming out on my socials, word of mouth. Now, today, the book came out in February. Now that it's out and I actually have it in hand, I promote it when I'm working. Wherever I go, I bartend. So it's sitting right there on the bar with me,
Okay.
networking with other people. Just recently, I partnered with a comedian that does clean comedy in churches. I'm partnering with him to not only sell the book, but also to speak and to get in touch and in front of people that actually need the work. So that's basically has always been my path. I've been working with the local library here in Indiana, and really just networking has been the biggest piece for me. I tried to hire third-party marketer, but I just didn't feel like I was getting my money's worth because everybody is starting to use AI. Well, I can do that myself.
Mhm.
And I just feel like for me, nobody can market the book the way that I can because they can't speak to it the way that I do. So it's a matter of just being consistent with marketing and not being afraid to sell yourself and tell people what it is that you do and what you write about. Because, like I said, for me, the purpose is to touch and save as many lives as possible. So I'm referring it, promoting it as many chances as often as I can on social media. Tammy, I met you in Springfield in
Yeah.
April. I brought the book down there.
Yeah.
I always have it with me.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's been just a word of mouth, old school.
Absolutely.
Till I get the money to pay for somebody else to really do it professionally.
Absolutely. I love that. What about you, Miss Owens?
But even when that happens, still nobody's going to be able to do it like you. I think so. I am very fortunate to have a sister that's like really like me too. And we like a one-stop shop. And both of us have like, degrees in communication, mass communication. So we've done a lot of work, in TV production, radio, media, PR, things like that. So when it comes to, even like doing our press releases and news, media alerts and things like that, graphic design, like we pretty much do everything. And and going back to, what Ms. Shatine shared, it's all about how you market. Like everywhere you go, it's like that elevator pitch, like if you ask, hey, how you doing? Hey, have you heard about Rock What You Got? Like I don't have kids, so I feel like Rock What You Got is my baby, so I'm going to show, but honestly speaking, I think that again, like when you are proud of your work, when you're proud of the things that you're doing, and also when it's something that is actually good, I think that you don't have to sell it. It sells itself. So be so confident in your work that at the end of the day, even when you're not around, like people are still spreading this, people are still talking about it. If it's a message in there, because, to Ms. Shantine's point, this is something that like people need, when we talk about healing, when we talk about, the grief, when you talk about the things that people really tangibly need right now, we don't have to do much to sell it. It sells itself, but definitely network, put yourself out here, because going back to what I said earlier, it works how you work it. And now this is the, in a way, kind of like the disadvantage of being self-published, because you are the marketing team, whereas if you are with a publisher, they will front that money to, get all of the marketing, get all of, like the major, corporations to back you and things like that. But at the same time, when you're self-published, you got to put that money in, or you have to do all of the legwork to really promote yourself and get yourself out there.
Okay, and Shantine may have to had stepped away for a little bit, but what marketing strategies work best for you right now? What's the best strategy you have going on for yourself right now when it comes to your books?
I definitely think like social media, and it's so funny because even though I'm on social media a lot, I don't really know everything about the ins and outs. You got the hashtags, you got like the highlight the followers, and all. I'm actually not that savvy with that, but I still will say social media is the way. Even like the TikTok shop, or Instagram, buy ad on social media. There are all kinds of different things you could do, but social media, but that's not the only way, because we have to remember that everybody receives information differently. Like, for instance, this is a panel like with educators, right? A lot of educators might email, right? Emails might be good, right? But older people, hey, you might need to get on the phone and call them, or you might need to go to them personally. So with me, especially, and I learned this in, being in politics, you have to understand that everybody receives things differently. So some people you got to call, some people you got to text, some people you got to show up, some people you could just send them an inbox, but to me, I use every format you could possibly, or even old school flyers, putting flyers on cars back in the day. When you're an artist, that's one thing about being an artist and like a poet, back in the day, we had to get out there. We had a show. Hey, I got to fill the space in this room. So I got to get out there with my flyers and promote. And, I got my product with me when I perform. So after I perform, you're going to come to me. You're going to be like, hey, let me get a copy of your book. Let me get that t-shirt, because, you've given me something, and now I want to continue to support you after that.
Right. And that's so speak to educators. What advice would you give a new author about building an audience, or even starting to think about writing a book? What information would you give them? What encouragement would you give them to get started?
First of all, I think educators, you all have a great advantage, because it's so many educators, and definitely across the country, right? You all are always having professional development. You're always having, means to convene each other. And so those are opportunities to network and share your work or share ideas. I think that the first thing I would always suggest, just start free writing. If you already know you have a story inside of you, just start writing. Don't think about making mistakes. Don't think about editing. Don't think about, where is it going to go? Is it going to go first or last? Just write. Because sometimes you'll find out, like, when you write, something that's at the end might be at the beginning. Something that's in the middle might end up being at the end, but if you just get it out, just get it out. Just start free writing. Just, just start writing. If you have a topic, if it's something specifically you want to write about, if it's a moment in time, just start writing. You'll be surprised at what comes out. But that's my advice first, to just get it out. Don't worry about mistakes. Don't worry about editing. Just start writing. Get a notebook that's designated for your writing project.
Right. Or even, and like you said, notebooks. Two of the things that I've created, 2 journals. One specifically is a healing and reflection journal. And my idea behind that was that even, someone like me that is a suicide loss survivor, it's things that I think about when it comes to my daughter. I want to be able to, write those things down. Self-reflection, my healing journey. I have space in here for them to put pictures and things like that of their loved ones. Who is your support system right now? What are you thankful for? You've gone through all of this, when it comes to your grief. I now start to write that stuff down, so that I'll have something that I can go back to when I'm feeling a certain type of way. I put that stuff in my journal, so when it comes to healing, that's just a process in itself that takes a long time to get through, so that's what I came up with, that journal for that. And that's one of the things that people could use to start sharing their story. And then put that into a book from there.
Exactly. Right. Like, right.
Mhm.
That process can help them in their own process. You're right.
Exactly. And so, like I said, I'm not sure. Maybe Shantine, she's got disconnected, but we'll continue on. What is one mistake you made that others should avoid when it comes to writing a book?
One mistake that I have made. One mistake that I have made. Oh, I don't know. Because again, I think that I appreciate the journey. You learn along the way. Um, I the only thing I can say is I don't really care for, KDP as much. So I don't, you know what I would say this. Because sometimes you do things because you're used to it, right? And
Right.
so I love, my experience working with CreateSpace. When they transferred over to KDP, I do not love this experience. So
Okay.
what I would say is doing more research on other platforms to see if
Mhm.
something else is a better fit, as opposed to just sticking with something because, I've been doing this for over 10 years. So I'm just used to it. Right. And so it's almost like I'd rather just kind of figure this out as opposed to maybe looking into some other platforms and seeing if something else is a better fit.
Right. And one of the things I just learned on the KDP is, and you can maybe speak to this since you are a publisher as well, the ISBN number. They give you the ISBN number, and I did not know that at first, that it's better to purchase your own.
Yeah.
And I wasn't aware of that. And so I would say that's a mistake. Although I have continued to put the rest of these on there since that's where I started,
Mhm.
but I am eventually going to purchase my own ISBN numbers because I found out that it's up under Amazon
Right.
rather
Right.
than up under you some kind of
Right.
way. I learned,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
heard
yeah.
something. You may be able to share a little bit more about that process.
No, you're exactly right, because there's definitely a way that you can buy your own ISBN number, and you can buy like 100 at a time, right? And
Yes.
so and that will belong specifically to you, So, and another thing too, I think, even though like you have Amazon.com, there's also other platforms as far as like internationally that you can
Mhm.
also put your book on. So that's it. Like for instance, if I got Rock What You Got in English, Spanish, and French, I should be opening it up to other networks so that like, if somebody in France, want to go on and purchase it, they'll be able to do it from, from that platform as well. So
Okay.
I definitely would say, do more research. And like we all are continuing to learn. So as I learn and I know something, I pass it on. So nobody had to make the same mistake I did, right?
Yes. And it costs a lot of money to use some of these other companies, which my first books was through another company, and the rest of the ones that I'm self-publishing, I've done it on Amazon. But
Mhm.
anyway, what was the biggest blessing or breakthrough moment after publishing your first book?
Well, I don't think I could talk enough about Rock What You Got.
Okay.
The breakthrough moment and the funny thing is, Rock What You Got, it wasn't supposed to even be a children's book. It's just a poem that I wrote. Agel's Going to Be a Rap Star was going to be my first book, and I was so excited about that. But when I sent it to the illustrator that did Rock What You Got, I don't know how the conversation shifted, and it ended up being that she did Rock What You Got, but it ended up being such a blessing because I can get a call right now. Somebody could be like, hey, can I get 3,000 copies of Rock What You Got? I'm like, what?
Okay.
Like, or if I go to the grocery store and the kid be like, oh my God, that's the girl that wrote Rock What You Got. I'm like, that just makes my heart melt.
I
There's just some
know.
kids from all over St. Louis that can recognize me, someone who's local, somebody who's tangible and has this message. And for them to be able to say, this is my favorite book. We grew up with children's book like Dr. Seuss,
Right.
now we're living in a time
Read it.
where not only can you have a book that looks like you and have a message that you can resonate with, but you can actually run into that author at the
Listen,
grocery store. Like,
exactly.
so that was to me my breakthrough moment, knowing that something that I created is something that like really resonates, not just with kids, but also with adults. Because I always remind myself that Rock What You Got was a poem that I wrote for me. And I always shared
Mhm.
this at open mics with other adults, and it resonated. So to be able to share that message at a young age for kids to appreciate the diversity and your unique
Mhm.
works and things like that, you know, adults love this book just as much as the kids do. I feel like the adults love it a little bit more.
Right. I love that because when it comes to our hair and all of those things that they talk
Our
about,
gap
like
in
you
our
said,
teeth.
right, or whatever that is, whatever your flaw is,
Yeah.
like you said, rock what you got. And
You,
so I
you,
love
you,
that.
you guys can see the picture on the cover, right?
Yes.
So when the illustrator, I just gave her the poem and she created the characters themselves. I love the fact that the little tall boy on there, my nephew was like, "That's me," and I'm like, "She's never seen a picture of you," but he think that's him. But that
Okay.
character with the orange shirt on, I asked the illustrator, I said, "Is that a boy or a girl?" And she's like, "Is it a boy or a girl?" I was like, "I don't know." But it made me think about myself when I was like in the 5th or 6th grade, just an androgynous person. I'm like, that's somebody. That is somebody who
Right.
they look like that. And I
Exactly.
love that. Like you look at that and you could be a girl or a boy and you can identify with that character, you know?
Absolutely. So, Miss Miss Kiana, welcome back. So, what was your biggest blessing or breakthrough moment after publishing your book?
I think the breakthrough moment for me was my book being presented at the East Chicago, Indiana Public Library. So my book is now in the library. So I think that was the breakthrough moment because now it gets to be part of the entire community, and it's not just excluded to a select few that choose to purchase it. So I think that was a big breakthrough moment.
Okay, wow. And how did you get your book into the library? How did that take place?
Again, knowing people, a friend of
Okay.
mine, his aunt and a friend of hers, they are affiliated with the library and they do a lot of local author events. So just knowing the right people and God's blessings, and that's how I was able to be presented there.
Okay, wow, that is good. And that's my goal is to get my book into Barnes and Noble. So I was creating my little contract and everything already. So I'm ready to go
Okay.
do my pitch once I get these other two done.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give someone who feels stuck writing their first book? What advice would you give them? You can
I
start
would
us off with
I would
Kiana. Yeah.
say if you're stuck, sometimes you just have to stop and take a break. Don't burn yourself out trying to write. Allow the writing to come when it's supposed to flow. I think sometimes that's where writer's block come in because we're trying to force it. And what I've learned is when I focus on something else, then that's when the rest of the writing will come. Then that's when the ideas will come. And then I will go sit back down and finish writing. So I would always recommend anybody that's writing a book for the very first time, don't force yourself. Just allow the thoughts and the message to come up when it's supposed to be written.
Okay, that makes sense. What about you, Miss Owens?
I think that's the best way to say it. Like I don't even want to add to that because that's exactly what I would say. Seriously.
Exactly. That makes a lot of sense. Cause and then put it out when you're ready.
Yeah.
You know, because it took me a while to put the book out about my daughter. I just wasn't ready yet, you know, and I was going through my little journey, you know, grief journey and stuff like that. And so I wanted to make sure that I was fully healed, you know, and although it's a process, I
Yeah.
was healed enough to be able to talk about it more, you know.
Yeah.
And I think once I was able to do that, then I said it's time.
Yeah.
You know, and so and you want to make sure that you're doing it at the right time whenever you get to that point. So the last couple of questions I have is an encouragement that we could give to some of the new authors. How do you push through self-doubt that you may have, you know, because we all struggle with that at times. You know, how what can you share with our listeners about that?
I would definitely just say, you know, remember that while a part of it is for you, a part of it is books, just like music, lives on beyond us. When I'm long gone, books will live on like music does. And so your message and what you have to share with others is beyond you. And like you say, you know, Shatine, if it's God given, if you know you're really walking and living in your purpose, and that comes out through whatever you create and publish, that is something that it's beyond you, you know. And so when you are having that self-doubt, just remember that this is not only going to help you, but this is something that could possibly save lives, even when we're long gone, for generations. So that's what I would encourage people.
Anything you want
I
to
would
add
have
to that?
to kind of add on to what you just said. Remember the why for why you're writing the book, because the why can be for a variety of reasons, but it is a piece of work that is a part of your legacy. Either way, even if you don't decide to publish it for the public, you just want to give it to family and friends, it is still your legacy. So just remember your why when you're writing it, and again, be patient with yourself and don't force it, because what's meant to come out, it will be revealed.
Absolutely. And that leads me right into our last question, Ms. Shantine, and you can share, and I know you have to go. What legacy do you hope your book will leave long
I
after
hope
you
I know the legacy that I'm trying to bring, that I want to leave, is a healing legacy, a legacy where we're creating a world where we can talk about things that we try to suffer with in silence, and we can say we're not okay, and know that we have a community of people that can support us when we don't have to feel isolated and ashamed of how we're feeling, especially if we're dealing with something as heavy as suicide or depression or anxiety. Knowing that we have safe places to actually be able to heal and share this out loud is what legacy that I'm hoping to leave once I transition from this world.
But thank you so much, Ms. Shantine.
Thank
Healing
you.
Out Loud, guys. Get on the website, Amazon, and purchase her book. We're going to share that at the end, her link and all of that for the audience. And so we thank you for being, I know you had to get off here at 7 o'clock. So we appreciate you coming on tonight. And I will see you on Saturday. She and I will be doing a suicide loss survivors event on Saturday in Lyles, Illinois, up near Chicago. So I appreciate you being on with us tonight. And so,
thank you for having me.
All right, appreciate it. Miss Owens, what legacy do you hope your book will leave? And then before you get off, will you share one of your poems with us as well before you leave? If you could share that with us before we close out tonight, I would love to hear one of your poems. Share what your legacy, the legacy you hope your book will leave, and then if you could share one of your poems with us, or whatever you want to share.
Yeah, you know, I'm not going to even say hope. The legacy I know I'm going to leave behind is actually a quote I came up with. Okay. Live your life like you care about the legacy you will leave behind to future generations. Like I mentioned earlier, I don't have biological children. I have nieces and nephews. I have a lot of kids in community that I, support. But when I think about the way I live my life, and which also comes out in the literature and in the poetry and everything that I do, to me, it's a blueprint. It's something that my nieces and nephews can model after, and so I feel like that's what I aim to always do. Not just with the books and with, the projects, but just with how I live my life. But definitely with the books, I hope that, especially like Rock What You Got. I mean, I can't say it.
Right. Rock What You Got, baby.
Well, Rock What You Got will be it's already in Ghana and some other countries, but it's going to be international. It's going to be all over the world. I give this book out at shelters, at foster care homes, group homes, because I also want everybody to have access to it. So when we have these kids that can't ordinarily, listen, I will give this book away because I just want it in the hands of all kids across the globe. So yes,
that is
because I want them to get that message very early to love the skin that you in. So
absolutely, and I would love for you to come share a little bit about Rock What You Got at the parole office.
And you know what? Hold on, I got to do a shameless plug for my newest book. I actually have 4 new books, new children's books.
Yeah, plug it.
2 Homes is a book about a kid that's kind of split between her mom and her dad's home and everything. So it's all about love and belonging and things like that. So this is the book that I'm actually going to share this Sunday. Me and my sister are doing the book signing this Sunday. So
okay, good. So can you share something with us? I know you say you get on stage and you talk about, you started out with your poetry. Share something with our audience, if you will, please.
Now, I want to share my Rock What You Got poem, but I'm going to share a different poem. I really want to do Rock What You Got, but I'm going to share a different one. I'm going to share one called Alone in a Crowded Room. So it says, I am the life of the party, so nobody would assume that I would feel so isolated in a jam-packed room. I keep the people laughing. I stimulate their minds. I even analyze them when my heart is real heavy. No one seems to notice all the pain that lies within. I pretend to be full of life in the midst of my family and friends, but I'm broken and confused. I pick and choose when I am well. And as much as they think they know me, when I'm alone, they cannot tell. So of course, I go unnoticed. They only see what I choose to give, unaware that I pick and choose when I refuse to live. So that's Alone in a Crowded Room.
Okay.
And I felt a need to do that because I've been hearing you talk about your daughter and Shantine talk about her journey. And one thing about life is sometimes it gets tough, and even if you're the person that's always bringing life to everybody else, nobody seems to notice sometimes when you, like, what's that, it's the God in me, when I get home and get behind closed doors, like nobody knows when people are suffering in silence. And so that piece really resonates with me.
And that gave me a little tear in my eye. And I appreciate that because I always share with people that when I go to, I am one of the board members for the Illinois chapter, the Suicide Foundation here in Illinois. In every event, even our visual that we do every year, our walk, early on, I always felt like I was the only person in the room. And I know that this has not just touched my life. And being an African American, I'm the only Black person there a lot of times when I do these events and stuff. And I have felt that way. So I thank you for sharing that. I've always felt in this space. And I'm starting to, when I go to the, when I went to the walk last year for the first time in Chicago, I felt so good because it was a variety of different people there at that event because of the population up there in Chicago. And I felt so good. I went again this year and I was like, every year I'm going to go to that event because it's more people that look like me that are there. And I don't feel as alone, in that space when I go to up there. So thank you so much for being here tonight. I look forward to purchasing some of your books. And I know you said all of your books are on Amazon, right?
Yes.
Okay. And I think if we just plug your name in, all of your books should come up. Because if you go and plug my name, Tammy Bush, I can see all of my stuff. Books that are uploaded on there will come up. So again, thank you so much for being here. I hope this encourage other people to start their journey in writing their book as well, because we all have a story to tell. So again, we appreciate you being on with us on tonight. So as we close this evening, I just want to honor every educator in the room, those teaching in classrooms, leading in schools, mentoring in communities, and shaping lives every single day. During American Education Week, we acknowledge not only what you do, but who you are. And tonight, we also acknowledge the authors within you. If this discussion sparked an idea, if it confirmed that the story you hold matters, if it reminded you that the lessons you teach deserve to be written down, then I encourage you to follow that nudge. Educators, you carry wisdom that can reach far beyond your school walls. Your curriculum ideas can empower parents. Your experiences can guide new teachers. Your stories can encourage a child, a family, or a community. Your journey can become a published work that blesses others for years to come. To our panelists, thank you for your honesty, your inspiration, and your expertise. To our sorors of Iota Phi Lambda Sorority Incorporated, the Eta Gamma chapter, thank you for leading with service and excellence. To every educator present, thank you for your heart, your devotion, and your voice. And remember this, your story is a lesson someone needs. Your voice is a tool of empowerment. Your book could become part of someone's breakthrough, and your legacy as an educator can live on in the pages that you write. Thank you for being here tonight. Happy American Education Week. And may this be the year you finally published a book that has been sitting in your spirit. So again, thank you for being here, and we appreciate it. Good night, everybody.
Good night, y'all.
All right. Yeah, been and you can go ahead and do the announcements. And I don't know if I guess we're still on air. Are we still on air? Yep, I just want to remind everybody about the prayer. I can come on. Okay, Dr. May, if you want to come back on to make that announcement for our prayer event on tomorrow. Dr. May, welcome back. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Again, I just want to say that I am an aspiring author myself. I have some books that are sitting to be published and finished, and I am going to do it. So I'm excited about the future of joining with these panelists in my soror as an author. I have written books as a kid and illustrated myself, and so it is overdue. And I am inspired after tonight's presentation. But I wanted to remind everyone that on tomorrow at 6 a.m., we will have our prayer for educators. This is an opportunity for us to pray for our educators, our students, everybody that's in the school system. Is so much going on, and we want to give people an opportunity to hear a prayer, ask for a prayer, and be uplifted during this season. There's a lot of things happening in this world that is discouraging, and we just want to uplift. So we appreciate everyone who have joined. If you have additional questions, we do have information from the authors for you can follow up with them. But this is the time for you to begin your journey, and we're happy to be a part of assisting you and inspiring you with this panel discussion in order to pursue your dreams and live out your legacy out loud. So thank you, Tammy Bush, for being the moderator for tonight. She is the author as well, as she shared, and she does a great job. So thank you so much on behalf of Eta Gamma chapter for attending our event virtually tonight. And please join us in the morning for prayer. So even if you're not an educator, but you may have an educator in your family, you have children that need to be prayed for, please join us in the morning at 6 a.m. Central Standard Time. Thank you.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.